What if the SEC's real endgame was never about XRP at all? Buckle up, because the crypto war you thought was over has just begun. For 2 years, the crypto world held its breath while the SEC battled Ripple in one of the most watched legal dramas in digital asset history. The courtroom theatrics unfolded with explosive headlines, Twitter debates, and mainstream media coverage that transformed analysts into amateur lawyers and traders into legal experts. Everyone was fixated on one burning question: would XRP be labeled a security forever? When Judge Annalisa Torres delivered her split decision in July 2023, ruling that XRP sales to institutional investors violated securities laws while retail exchange sales did not, the crypto community exhaled collectively with cautious relief. But here's what nobody saw coming: that partial victory wasn't the end of the story. It was the opening act. While the entire industry was mesmerized by the Ripple spectacle, the SEC was orchestrating something far more sophisticated: a strategic masterclass in regulatory control that would make the XRP case look like a warm-up round. The truth is, XRP wasn't the target. It was the decoy. A masterfully executed distraction that kept every eye focused in one direction while the real chess moves were happening elsewhere. Because while retail investors were glued to courtroom updates, the SEC wasn't just fighting Ripple. They were laying the legal and psychological groundwork to come after something infinitely more dangerous to the established order. And this time, they're not going after the flashy tokens or meme coins that grab headlines. They're targeting the quiet revolutionaries, the protocols that don't seek attention but silently weave themselves into the very fabric of governments, central banks, and financial institutions worldwide. The tokens that actually work, that can plug directly into the global economy, bypass traditional middlemen, and quietly make legacy systems obsolete. Quant, Algorand, Algo. These aren't speculative gambles or hype machines. They're permissionless technologies that accomplish exactly what regulators fear most: making centralized control unnecessary. And that's precisely why they've become the next battlefield. Because when a digital asset stops being a gamble and starts becoming a threat to institutional power, it's only a matter of time before the regulatory hammer falls. So if you thought the Ripple case was the finale, you weren't paying attention. It was just the beginning, a brilliantly orchestrated opening move in a much larger game. Let me show you how the SEC played us all. The Ripple lawsuit wasn't just a legal battle, it was psychological warfare. For over 2 years, this single case dominated every crypto conversation, turning the entire industry into spectators of a courtroom drama that felt like the ultimate boss fight. YouTube breakdowns dissected every filing, Twitter exploded with legal theories, and even mainstream financial media couldn't look away from the spectacle. But here's the genius of it all. While everyone was watching this one very public fight, the SEC was quietly achieving something far more strategic. They were testing their enforcement boundaries, discovering just how aggressively they could move without explicit congressional authorization. The Ripple case became their regulatory laboratory, a place to experiment with new interpretations of securities law and gauge industry reaction. And it worked perfectly. The case established crucial precedent that the SEC now has jurisdiction over blockchain-based financial activities when they involve investment contracts too. This legal framework, born from the Ripple battle, now applies to protocol staking, DeFi platforms, and tokenized infrastructure projects across the entire industry. The SEC didn't need to win every argument. They just needed to create enough fear and uncertainty to slow down adoption, especially among the projects that actually work. The moment they secured that partial victory against Ripple, they knew exactly what came next: go quiet, go strategic, and go after the tokens that the public isn't defending because they're not even watching. That's how real power operates, with noise in one hand and silence in the other. While the crypto world celebrated its partial win, the SEC was already moving to phase 2 of their master plan. While everyone was busy watching the SEC battle Ripple in public, the real future of finance was being constructed quietly, block by block, contract by contract, in the shadows. No flashy marketing campaigns, no meme armies, no influencer endorsements, just sophisticated code, strategic partnerships, and seamless integration with the system itself. That's where Quant, and Algorand, Algo come in. Hear me out, these aren't coins designed to go viral on social media or make day traders rich overnight. They were engineered to solve very specific institutional problems, the kind that keep Wall Street executives, central bank officials, and global regulators awake at night. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous to the existing order. Quant Network exemplifies the type of infrastructure-focused protocol that operates in the shadows while building critical enterprise connections. Founded by Gilbert Verdian, who brings extensive experience from Treasury, MasterCard, and various UK government departments, Quant leverages this institutional background to position itself as a bridge between traditional finance and blockchain technology. The company's Overledger technology functions as a blockchain operating system that enables interoperability without requiring organizations to choose a single blockchain platform. This overlay network approach allows Quant to connect existing systems, from public blockchains to private bank ledgers, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and legacy payment APIs, without requiring fundamental changes to underlying infrastructure. The strategic significance of this approach became evident through Project Rosalind, a joint initiative between the Bank of England and the Bank for International Settlements that utilized Quant's Overledger platform to test API functionalities for retail CBDC systems 1. The project successfully demonstrated how APIs could enable a central bank ledger to interact with private sector service providers, exploring over 30 potential use cases and showcasing the programmability features that make CBDCs more than simple digital cash. 1. Quant's collaboration with the Digital Pound Foundation further demonstrates its institutional integration strategy. The company contributes to the development of the UK's CBDC vision, focusing specifically on interoperability, enabling the digital pound to work seamlessly with existing payment infrastructure and traditional forms of money. This positioning aligns with the narrative's assertion that Quant is building infrastructure for the financial system rather than competing against it. The company's ISO 20022 compliance positions it strategically for the global financial transformation. This international standard for financial messaging is being adopted by central banks worldwide, with the Federal Reserve's adoption of ISO 20022 for Fedware payments creating opportunities for compliant blockchain projects. For Quant, this compliance means seamless integration with the exact standards that traditional financial institutions are migrating toward. Recent developments suggest expanding institutional adoption. Quant has been selected as a pioneer partner in the European Central Bank's Digital Euro project, positioning it to play a crucial role in developing Europe's digital currency infrastructure. This partnership focuses on enhancing programmable payment capabilities, demonstrating how Quant's technology enables central bank innovation while maintaining regulatory compliance. Algorand, the government-grade blockchain platform. Algorand demonstrates a parallel but distinct approach to becoming critical infrastructure. Rather than connecting existing systems, Algorand provides a foundation that governments and institutions can build upon directly. The platform's pure proof-of-stake consensus mechanism, designed by MIT cryptographer Silvio Macaulay, offers mathematical guarantees of security and decentralization that appeal to institutional users. The blockchain's institutional focus is evidenced by its partnerships with central banks and government entities. The most notable implementation is the Republic of the Marshall Islands' selection of Algorand to power the world's first national digital currency, the Marshallese Sovereign SOV. This partnership demonstrated Algorand's capability to handle sovereign-level monetary infrastructure, with the SOV designed to circulate alongside the US dollar and help the Marshall Islands operate more efficiently in the global economy. Algorand's involvement in European institutional projects includes selection as the sole public blockchain for Italy's Digital Bank Guarantees project. This initiative, backed by the Bank of Italy and insurance regulator IVASS, aims to tackle fraudulent banking guarantees through blockchain technology. The project represents the first EU implementation of blockchain for bank and insurance guarantees, highlighting Algorand's regulatory compliance capabilities. The platform's technical capabilities align well with institutional requirements. Algorand processes up to 10,000 transactions per second with block times under 3 seconds, while maintaining 100% uptime and carbon-neutral operations. These characteristics make it suitable for applications requiring high throughput and reliability, distinguishing it from speculative blockchain projects. Recent market activity demonstrates Algorand's growing institutional relevance. The platform's ISO 20022 compliance has positioned it favorably for Federal Reserve Fedware adoption, contributing to significant price appreciation in 2025. Algorand's dominance in real-world asset tokenization, with a 70% market share and $268.2 million in on-chain value, demonstrates practical utility for traditional financial instruments. The regulatory contradiction, compliance versus targeting. The narrative's assertion about Algorand's regulatory treatment reveals a crucial contradiction in the SEC's approach. Gary Gensler had previously praised Algorand as great technology during his MIT tenure, specifically highlighting that founder Silvio Macaulay has a great technology, the best performance you could create Uber on top of it. This endorsement, given in 2019, stands in stark contrast to the SEC's April 2023 enforcement action that classified Algo as an unregistered security in its case against Bittrex. This regulatory reversal came without prior warning or explanation, representing a significant shift from previous regulatory treatment. The inclusion of Algorand among 6 tokens classified as unregistered securities occurred despite the platform's focus on institutional compliance, regulatory approval, and government partnerships. This pattern suggests that regulatory compliance may not provide protection from enforcement actions, supporting the narrative's assertion that being compliant doesn't make you safe. The timing of these enforcement actions coincides with increased institutional adoption of blockchain technology by traditional financial institutions. This creates a paradox where the most technically sound and institutionally integrated blockchain projects face regulatory scrutiny precisely because of their effectiveness and potential for mainstream adoption. And you guys, I have a special trick for you, which nobody seems to be using, and I cannot wrap my head around why. Because if you sign up through my link down in the description onto the BTCC exchange, you get a 10% deposit bonus, and now stay with me here. Now here comes the important part. If you have any trading capital on any other exchange and you move it to your newly created BTCC account, you get on top of your capital you moved another 10% extra trading capital. As an example, if you move or deposit 100K to your account, you get 10K for free. I'm not kidding. I really don't understand why nobody is doing this. To me, it really seems like people sometimes are too lazy or just don't like free money. I mean, like, I cannot make that account for you. You will need to do that yourself. Alright, let's jump back into the video. The infrastructure targeting strategy. The SEC's approach to infrastructure tokens reflects a more sophisticated understanding of blockchain technology's transformative potential. Rather than focusing solely on speculative trading tokens, the regulatory strategy has evolved to target the foundational protocols that enable tokenized financial systems. The shift toward protocol-level regulation is evidenced by the SEC's May 2025 guidance on protocol staking activities. While this guidance clarifies that certain staking activities do not constitute securities transactions, it simultaneously reinforces the SEC's authority to determine what constitutes a security in the blockchain context. This approach allows the agency to provide apparent clarity while maintaining regulatory control over infrastructure development. The concept of base layer neutrality has become increasingly important as regulators recognize that controlling the fundamental infrastructure of blockchain networks provides significant oversight capabilities. Central banks worldwide are exploring ways to maintain control over monetary policy through CBDC implementations that leverage blockchain technology while maintaining centralized authority. The regulatory focus on programmable money and tokenized assets reflects growing recognition of blockchain's potential to transform financial infrastructure. Recent SEC roundtables on tokenization demonstrate increasing regulatory attention to these technologies. However, this attention comes with attempts to apply existing securities law frameworks to new technological paradigms that may not fit traditional regulatory categories. Tokenized infrastructure, the real disruption. The infrastructure tokenization sector represents the most significant long-term threat to traditional financial systems. The World Bank's 2023 report on infrastructure tokenization identified a $15 trillion funding gap that blockchain technology could help address. This represents the kind of systemic change that would fundamentally alter financial intermediation, moving beyond speculative trading toward replacing traditional financial rails with blockchain-based systems. Current tokenization projects focus on real-world assets including infrastructure, real estate, and commodities. These applications enable fractional ownership, instant settlement, and global access to investment opportunities that were previously limited to institutional investors. The proliferation of these applications creates new challenges for regulators accustomed to controlling access through traditional intermediaries. The economic implications of widespread tokenization extend beyond the cryptocurrency market. Quant's tokenization market, valued at $2 billion in 2021, is expected to grow at 24% annually over the next 8 years. This growth represents not just financial opportunity, but a fundamental shift in how assets are created, managed, and transferred. The quiet revolution, enterprise adoption without fanfare. The transformation occurring in blockchain infrastructure represents a quiet revolution that operates without the social media attention characteristic of speculative cryptocurrencies. While retail investors focus on price movements and meme coins, institutional adoption of blockchain technology proceeds through partnerships with banks, governments, and financial institutions. Quant's enterprise integration strategy focuses on solving specific institutional problems rather than creating new speculative markets. The company's collaboration with major banks through the UK Regulated Liability Network, RLN, project demonstrates how blockchain technology can enhance existing financial systems without requiring complete replacement. This approach reduces institutional resistance while gradually introducing blockchain capabilities into traditional finance. Similarly, Algorand's government partnerships demonstrate practical utility beyond speculative trading. The platform's involvement in cross-border aid delivery systems has reduced aid distribution time to as little as 15 minutes for disaster victims through AID Tech's Care Survivor Wallet. These applications showcase blockchain's potential to solve real-world problems while building the infrastructure for broader adoption. The invisible conductor strategy employed by both platforms reflects a broader approach to blockchain adoption. Rather than announcing revolutionary disruption, these projects focus on providing the infrastructure layer that enables other applications to function more efficiently. This approach reduces regulatory resistance while building the foundational capabilities for widespread blockchain adoption. The regulatory response, framework development versus enforcement. The SEC's evolving approach to blockchain regulation reflects recognition that infrastructure technologies require different regulatory frameworks than traditional securities. The agency's current priorities under the Trump administration emphasize collaborative framework development rather than enforcement-driven regulation. The formation of the Crypto Task Force represents an institutional acknowledgement that blockchain technology requires nuanced regulation. Commissioner Hester Peirce's leadership of this initiative signals a move toward providing clear guidelines for token classification and compliance requirements. This approach aims to encourage traditional financial institutions to participate in blockchain innovation while maintaining appropriate oversight. However, the fundamental challenge remains: how to regulate decentralized technologies that operate across traditional jurisdictional boundaries while maintaining the oversight capabilities that regulators require. The experiences of Quant and Algorand suggest that even the most compliant and institutionally focused blockchain projects must navigate complex regulatory landscapes where compliance doesn't guarantee protection from enforcement actions. The SEC's recent dismissal of several high-profile enforcement actions, while simultaneously strengthening its regulatory framework for blockchain infrastructure, demonstrates this quiet approach, reducing public enforcement while building regulatory precedent. This strategy enables the agency to establish control over blockchain development without generating the public resistance that aggressive enforcement might provoke. Global regulatory coordination. The regulatory approach to infrastructure tokens extends beyond U.S. jurisdiction, with international coordination becoming increasingly important. The Bank for International Settlements' involvement in blockchain infrastructure projects, like Project Rosalind, demonstrates how international financial institutions are collaborating on blockchain regulation. European regulatory developments, particularly the markets in crypto assets (MiCA) regulation, provide frameworks for blockchain infrastructure that emphasize compliance and institutional integration. Algorand's selection for Italy's digital bank guarantees project and potential involvement in the digital euro testing, reflects how European regulators are embracing blockchain technology while maintaining regulatory oversight. This international coordination creates opportunities for compliant blockchain projects while establishing global standards for infrastructure development. Projects like Quant and Algorand, which prioritize regulatory compliance and institutional integration, are well-positioned to benefit from these coordinated frameworks. The future of financial infrastructure. The convergence of regulatory clarity and institutional infrastructure is creating conditions for widespread blockchain adoption that operates within existing legal frameworks rather than challenging them. The SEC's shift toward providing clear regulatory guidelines while maintaining oversight capabilities reflects recognition that blockchain technology can enhance rather than replace traditional financial systems. The infrastructure-first approach demonstrated by Quant and Algorand may prove more sustainable than disruptive strategies that challenge existing regulatory frameworks. By positioning themselves as essential infrastructure rather than competitive alternatives, these projects reduce regulatory resistance while building the foundational capabilities for broader blockchain adoption. The narrative's assertion that these protocols are laying the very tracks that the next financial system will run on reflects their strategic positioning as foundational infrastructure. This approach may provide regulatory protection while enabling the gradual transformation of financial systems through compliant blockchain implementation. Why you can't afford to ignore this? Because this shift doesn't just impact traders, developers, or crypto enthusiasts. It impacts everyone who uses money, which means everyone. This is about how your money moves, who controls your access to it, whether your financial freedom is programmable or restricted, and whether you're transacting in a system that's transparent or one that monitors your every move. Quant and Algorand are at the center of that battle, not by accident but by design. They built the systems that actually work, and now they're being noticed by everyone who matters. If you think you're just a bystander in this story, think again. You're a user of the financial system, and that system is changing permanently, whether you're paying attention or not. So the question isn't whether the SEC will go after more crypto projects. The question is, will the crypto that survives serve the existing system, or will it replace it entirely? And that answer is being written right now, in silence, while most people aren't even watching. They made you think the Ripple case was the war. They wanted your eyes glued to one courtroom, one coin, one set of headlines. Because while you were watching XRP's legal drama unfold, they were quietly mapping the new financial rails and moving to identify, pressure, and regulate the infrastructure that could actually replace them. Not the hype coins, not the speculative fads, but the quiet ones. The protocols that don't scream for attention because they're too busy being used by governments, banks, trade systems, identity platforms, and tokenized capital markets. Quant, Algorand, technologies that have moved beyond the experimental phase into actual implementation. The kind of infrastructure that quietly becomes so useful, so embedded, that removing it becomes impossible. And that's the real danger, not to investors but to the gatekeepers who have controlled finance for centuries. Because for the first time in modern history, we have tools that can remove the need for middlemen, automate trust, and function without asking permission from anyone. When power sees something it can't control, it doesn't debate the merits. It labels it. It regulates it. It buries it in regulatory uncertainty and legal costs until the innovation either complies or dies. Because if they can slow it down long enough, they win by delay, by forcing retail investors to disengage, by scaring developers into submission, by dragging breakthrough innovation through endless courtrooms until centralized alternatives catch up. And that's exactly where we are right now. The infrastructure is being built, the players are making their moves, and the window for choosing which side of history you stand on is closing fast. The question was never whether XRP is a security. The real question is, what happens when the tools designed to replace the system don't need the system's permission to succeed? Ready to dive deeper into the crypto revolution that's reshaping finance? Smash that like button if this opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, and subscribe for more insider analysis on the protocols that are quietly changing everything. The future of money is being written right now. Don't miss the next chapter.